Law and Kid are absolute beasts, but when they fight solo, they are severely lacking. Law has the brain and an emotional support teddy bear, but no brawn. Kid has a raw power, but up there, zero activity. And so up against the big leagues, they get absolutely wrecked. But the only time they were able to win was when they teamed up. And for them, this was more than just a fight. It was a much needed eye opener because these two idiots were so confident in their crews and filled with arrogance, especially this guy, that it took a natural disaster in the shape of Big Mom for them to realize something was missing. Like Law, for example, may be a master strategist, like how he uses debris to instantly teleport and how he uses his massive sword to poke from a safe distance, but when it comes to brute force and stamina, he is on par with Little Chopper. Which is where Kid comes in. Now, Kid's brain might be in shambles, but he is absolutely broken at tanking blows. And in this fight, he was able to create openings for Law by turning Big Mom into a magnet and physically wore down her thick armor for skin. And while Big Mom was distracted by Kid and his obnoxious war cries, it made room for Law to use Shockwill to deal internal damage, which ultimately led to her downfall. No puns intended. It also helped that in Big Mom's eyes, they were like two annoying flies waiting to be squashed, not knowing that these very flies would be the end of Mama. But this was only possible because they teamed up, something they were too proud to admit, which then soon led to their demise. Since one reality check wasn't enough, Oda gave them each a nice hard whack in the shape of Shanks and Blackbeard, and I cannot defend either of them. Especially Kid, who had actually had a taste of Shanks before and lost his whole arm to Beckman, yet still was somehow deluded to think he stood a chance against its captain. And his crew, who looked like an 80s rock band waiting to get rocked out at sea. The only decent fighter Kid had was Killer, and even he was shivering in his boots. Not only did Kid not think far enough, he risked his crew, he jumped straight in forgetting he didn't have Law covering for him, and the final nail in the coffin was that he was positioned in the perfect spot to get wrecked by the giants. And as much as I love his character, he had this one coming. Now for our surgeon, on the other hand, I sure hope Blackbeard opened his eyes as to why he needs a stronger crew. A crew that can actually put up a fight and aren't just good-natured softies. He is his own captain, doctor, fighter, navigator, while the rest are just cheerleading mascots only there for moral support. I read somewhere that Law chose to surround himself with people that reminded him of Corazon, which might have made sense if they worked at a daycare, but the sea is a different ballgame. He did not stand a chance against Blackbeard's crew with cheat codes for devil fruits. And so when Law goes solo, he gets overwhelmed. And when Kid is alone, he gets outsmarted. But put them together, and you get a Yonko killer machine. Which leads me to my next point, a potential permanent alliance between the Heart and the Kid pirates. Or just Law, Kid, Beppo, and Killer, because I highly doubt the rest of the NPCs survived. But that aside, the only flaw in this theory are Law and Kid themselves, because if you know anything about them, you'd know that they would rather die than team up. Though there is a strong chance that Oda is actually foreshadowing this alliance, with Mihawk, Crocodile, and Buggy coming together, who unlike these two were mature enough to realize that they couldn't make it out alone, despite their egos and big bounties. Except for Buggy, he's just kind of there. And so the only real way for this to work would be a showdown between the two, and the winner would get to be captain. Plain and simple, provided they don't end up killing each other. And if, by the will of Oda, this alliance does happen, I am dying to know who would reach out first. With Law being a tsundere and Kid being a mindless ruffian, it might all boil down to mighty Beppo to decide. But all jokes aside, this brings us to the part I've been dying to talk about, which is a theory for Endgame One Piece. We all know Luffy is going to be Pirate King and not pull an MHA saying that this is the story of how we became the Pirate King, but given Luffy's short lifespan, he'd probably not remain Pirate King for long. And if Law and Kid happen to come together, I believe we'll see our first ever duo Pirate Kings. Now stay with me for a second. We've already seen plenty of alliances in the past that were temporary, but if Law and Kid did form an alliance, they'd need to keep that up unless they want to turn into seafoam. And they aren't the type to backstab their allies, so a very chaotic but strong connection could possibly exist between the two. And finally, the biggest reason this could work is that they love their crews, and so if not for themselves, they might set aside their pride and form an alliance for their friends. Now I'll let you decide whether I'm onto something or if I have a career in writing fanfiction.